like that. I quite like it indeed. Alright then guys, so this is what I cut the blank out for the last project, the apocalypse helmet. So I cut the top off and I've left myself with this. So obviously someone else done all of this work, yeah. So I've got this pipe coming through. I think they were making a burner. They cut this slit in. I think they were going to put a door above here. I don't know why the burner's at the front. Maybe they were going to put a damper on it. Whatever. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to have this at the side, still accessible for a damper. So I'm going to weld this up, weld a plate across the top, and out of the plate on the top I'm going to have the chimney at the back. Yeah. So I was thinking, since you know everything I've done so far on here has been out of gas bottles, I was just going to cut a panel out of a gas bottle, hammer it flat, weld it over the top. But I had a little play around in the shed and I was in the steel bin, and I've got this bit of stainless. Yeah. There's a couple of designs on from things I was going to cut out of it. I think it's a gate latch for my sister in a last place that she lived from about 5-6 years ago, maybe even more. And it's perfect, yeah. It's just got this tiny little overhang of a couple of mil all the way around, and I like it, yeah. So I think I'm just going to weld this plate on. I'm going to get it all level, put a couple of spots, weld it all the way around. When it comes time, I'll cut the hole in. I don't have the dimensions. I've got a couple of chimneys on the allotment that I can use. They're big, thick iron pipe. They'll be perfect for the job. I don't know the inner circumference of the chimney, so I'm going to go and measure that after I film this part today. So there will be a part 2. Maybe it's going to be included in this. I'm probably not going to put this up straight away, but it is going to be on another day. And I'm going to bring it up. I'll put some tabs, bring it up. That'll be great. Then I'm going to cut a door shape out of it, big enough so that I can access all of it, get plenty of fuel in. I might put some racks above where the downpipe is that are removable, so I can bring the fire above where the air intake is, and this should work absolutely brilliantly. So this steel plate is 2 mil thick, so it's not going to last forever. It is stainless, so it'll stand up a bit better than steel. It's going to be indoors. I'm going to put it in my allotment shed. I'm going to put some legs on the bottom to raise it up, or maybe I'll just build some breeze block legs, build a little stand for it out of breeze blocks at the allotment. I'm not 100%, but I've got some big flagstones I can put between it and the wall with a bit of a gap, so everything will be safe along those lines. So I did get asked through my personal Facebook, where I shared one of the earlier videos, what electrodes I use when I'm using the stick welder. That's the word, Dan. It's a stick welder. Covered arc. So I'm using these Impacts, IMPA Giant X professional power tools. Yeah, I do believe I got them at Screwfix. It's local. They're reasonably priced. They come in packs of 50. This is a pack of 50, and they're 2.5mm. Yeah, they're used for mild steel. They're general purpose. They're flux coated electrodes, and they're ideal for welding. Mild steel, easy striking, hold a stable arc, have self-releasing slag, need excellent shape and finish of the weld seam. All that means is I've got to hit it less. It's easy striking, so I'm going to, I don't know the nice word for it, muck around. I don't have to muck around. Yeah. Just get it touching, get it close, strikes up an arc, get that seam filled. This gaff is 0.8mm thick, so I think we've just used a little 0.8mm cutting discs to get through it. I'm going to weld that up. It's fairly clean all the way around, so I haven't done any cleaning on it whatsoever. 2.5, it's 2mm thick steel, that's going to penetrate lovely. So I'm going to get going. So I've just caught myself, and why not share a little bit of knowledge? So, welding for beginners. Yeah, got a stick welder, I've got it all set up. I'm running on 80. But he's working on 2.5s, so I'm just tweaking that down to 80. The dial is showing 75, but the welder's showing 80 because of the conditions. So I'm going to be welding this up. When you're welding two bits of steel together, you aim perfectly in the middle, you get a nice weld. What I'm doing here is I've got this gap, I'm welding up the gap. So how do you do it? Yeah, now I'm not going to go through and show you how to get a bead going through, because honestly, I don't want to. Yeah, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to see where the end of the hole is. So I've still got steel here, because it's not a hole. So I'm going to put a blob of weld on there, and I'm going to spot weld all the way along this seam, so that if you ever come to the need of welding up a hole like this and you find a similar sort of setup, you'll be able to. Not corona, cough. Yeah, so firstly I'm going to get my mask down. Sorry about the audio, it's probably going to be a bit weird through the mask. So I'm going to put one big weld here, and then I'll talk to you after that. So sorry, before I do this gap, right before the gap starts, I'm going to weld the steel just before the gap starts, feed into a bit of a pool. Or I would if I cleaned the slag off the end of the electrode. So there you go, no muss, no fuss. I've put a weld on, it's just a blob, and it feeds that little bit down. Hit it with your hammer, get rid of the slag, and you can see I've went a bit too far to the right, so I'm just going to bring it in, put another actually over the gap. And there you have it. Got a little weld over the gap, so all we're going to do is feed into that. So I'm not going to weld the gap, I'm going to weld onto the side of this weld. And there you go, we've started filling the gap. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to aim in the gap, I'm going to aim on the weld just before the gap. It's going to heat up, I'm going to bring the steel from this side in, I'm going to bring the steel from this side in, all in one spot, and mix it with the steel that is in the electrode. Now this electrode isn't anything fancy, yeah, it's a bit of steel. Yeah, you see the end, it's just a steel rod, which is just a steel stick, and it's wrapped in flux. And what the flux does, the flux forces any air, any moisture, anything out of the weld. It just protects the weld, so all that's happening, all that's going into the weld is steel. It's the steel from this side, it's the steel from this side, it's the steel from the rod mixing in together, and it's an arc of electricity. A common mistake is to call this an earth. It's not an earth, it's a negative. Yeah, I don't know what you know about circuits, but a circuit's simple. Yeah, positive circuit. This is the negative, so I clamp that to this. My entire piece is now the negative. Anywhere I touch on this piece is the negative of this circuit. The electrode is the positive. Yeah, so I touch the positive to the negative, the circuit is complete. What the welder does, because it's feeding through the welder's in the circuit, it superheats the metals with the electrical arc and makes them fuse. It's simple. It is very simple. I know that it may sound complicated, you may not understand it, but it's quite simple. So just paused it to keep my clips to a reasonable size. It takes a little bit to get the big clips over from my recording equipment to my computer where I do all of the editing and then uploading. So I've made them smaller. So all I'm going to do with this, so I've got this little bit of this bed of weld, just going to aim, as you see, as you look at it, it looks a bit like an orange cut open. And it's got that little divot. That's where I stopped feeding the steel into. Just going to aim just outside of that, just closer to the edge of the gap that I'm filling, and put another. And there you go, and we're moving down. And that's very simple, that's very basic welding with a stick welder. Now all you need to do to expand on that, if you don't stop, you don't need to remove the slag. So it's faster if you don't stop. So I keep giving it a brush, get everything off, and you can see that weld is moving down. So we started up here and we're moving down. So I'm just going to get a few of those off the rack and we'll continue. So there you have it. I've brought it down all the way from up here and we're down here now. So just going to move along it, cover your eyes, the slag comes off, it can still be very hot. If it's not hot, it's still very sharp. You don't want it in your eyes. Cover your eyes. And bring the slag off, then you give it a bit of a brush. And your weld is revealed to you. It's still got a little bit there, I want that off. Beautiful. So that's all the way down to here, the weld. So you can do a seam weld on this sort of stuff. I'm just going to switch out the electrode. It's a little short to get that seam done. So put a new one on and it just clamps in. You press this lever. It's got grooves in one side, so you can put it in different angles. I always do it straight because my arm can turn, which is really fancy. I paid for the upgrade when I was born. So I'm just going to roll the piece towards me. I'm going to bring it back away from my camera equipment because I keep forgetting about it. Bring the slag off that piece. And I'm just going to feed the rod, do this in one. And there you have it. One nice weld all the way across. That's solid. So now that that's done, I don't have to worry about this gap that someone else cut into it. It's finished. Now I'm not sure what their welds are like around here, but I'm going to trust them because it's an air intake, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, it honestly doesn't matter to me. If there's a little bit, I'll swack some hammerite over the top of it. That'll seal it for the next 5 years. I don't need to worry about air6. Might not make it through 2021. So I'll come back to you once I've flipped it over and we're welding the top on. So there we have it, nothing pretty, nothing precise. I've went round the entire plate, around the areas where we're going to weld. I've left the middle, I don't care, there's going to be a fire touching that very soon. I've ground off all the way around the rim, so there's not going to be any paint getting pulled up. Any paint further below, that'll just burn off anyway with contact with the weld. Went round the inside, got rid of the rust, because rust will kill a weld. I've got it nice and planished on the top, that's all nice and flat. I'm going to get this onto my bench, get this clamped up. I think I've got to clean off a bit of that pipe. Hopefully that pipe's up the stand. I'll be able to clamp onto that with me negative and get this welded. So everything's set up. I've still got the electrode in from welding up the back. I've still got my box full of them ready and available. I'll pull a few out there and spread them out so that I'll be able to grab them quickly. I'll just put those right there just outside the camera focus. Everything's set up. I did give that back pipe a little bit of a file so that I know it's connecting well. I've got my helmet set back to weld because I don't want the first weld that I do on this plate to be a blinder. Welder on, everything's good. That's up to power. Let's get welding. Straight away, that's how much weld that I get out of one of that rod that was already used. So I'm probably looking at about 5 to 6 rods to get all the way around this. That's not too bad. When welding on 2 items, you aim straight for the middle, so straight where this steel touches this steel, you put the exact centre of the rod against it and you just pull slowly. Yeah, if you want big thick welds, you stay in one place for a bit longer. You don't want to stay too long or you'll burn a hole in it. But all you do is just bring it round. Don't forget your mask and your gloves and your apron. Don't get burnt, don't get hurt. So I'll see you when the next weld's done. So there you go, one long seam all the way around, and that's good. I don't know why I'm going this way around. When I weld that way around, I'm going to just keep going with it. So I've welded it all up. As you can see from the front, I've got this lovely ring where all the welds are. Why is that not bit shown? Let's have it a check. That's solid. So then, I've got it all sorted. The top's nice and flat. It's all nice and clean. Well, clean's a very strange word. It's got all the crud off, all of that stuff. Once I get the fire, I've got a little bit of oil on the top that'll all burn off on the first fire. I think I'll have a fire down at the allotment day 1 just outside. Get all the paint burnt off and stuff before I take it in and get it in. So I've got here, this is the side. So turning it on 90, lying it down. So I've brought myself out a trusty chalk and a ruler. So once all of this is done, I'll be cutting the door out, getting that sorted. I'll be able to get on the inside, weld some bars across for the fire to sit on, and that's all going to be great. Once the bars are in, the bars are going to be removable. So I'm going to be welding the bar around the outside of it, I think. So bars can sort of sit on it so that I can have a fire, remove it to get all of the ash out of the bottom so that the air intake doesn't get blocked up. So first things first, I'm just finding a centre line. I'm just doing it by eye. I don't need it to be precise. So I've got this centre line. Now that the centre line is in, I need to look about where the air intake is. I want the fire above that, so I can have it up here. Yeah. So the next thing is, how big do I want the door? Well, I want the door to come to about here. So I want a big door so that I can get lots of big wood in. Got that door in, just eyeballing from the top. As I say, nothing's got to be precise. We've got that mark here, look straight down, and that's where my door's going to be. So then I'm going to bring this line and I'm just going to do a simple door. So I've got my weld mask set to grind, so I'll be able to grind without risking my eyes. I'm going to cut this door out. I'll come back to you once that's done. And there we'll have it. 2 cutting discs and we've got my door out. So there's my door. There's my doorway with all the smoke of all the crud that collects in gas bottles over the years. Let's give that a blow, and yeah, we'll have it. So the first thing, of course, is I'm going to take a flappy disc around all of the edges that I've just cut on the door and the door hole. Get those all nice and back so that I don't cut my fingers if I come at them without my gloves, or cut holes in my gloves, because I love my gloves. Because as I say, wear gloves, it's safe. So I'm going to do that. I'll do that as I'm talking to you. And everything will be alright. Once this is done, I'll be able to look at mocking up those inner sections. I'll be able to look at the door, getting the door fitted. And once all that's done, I'll be wrapping up for the day. Because once the door's on and I've got the interior done, the only thing left is to put the chimney hole on. Which is going to be tomorrow because I haven't got enough daylight today to get to the allotment, get the dimensions, come back and make it. So, I'll see you in a bit. So I've changed my mind, the plan has evolved. The sliding door, I really don't want to bring this off and make it not square. I don't want to round it off. I don't want a circular plate to be sitting a frying pan or anything on. I like the fact that it's square. I can add a little lip just up from it and stop things from getting knocked off and sloshing off, and it just sounds like a great idea. Obviously I can't just hinge the door as it is, I will need to put a bar around it, but that's possible. I've got everything I need to do that sort of work. But I don't have any hinges, and even when you get hinges, you've got to get a special type of hinges to weld it with a stick welder. You've got to get big thick hinges, they've got to be steel. And it's a nightmare, and at that point you're usually running up about a tenner for just 2 hinges. I don't have any scrap hinges lying around. Even if I did, they're not great. I don't want to be sat here drilling that many holes to bolt it on, and then if I do bolt it on, the bolts are a problem. So what I do have is I have these 2 bolts, and a good idea. So these 2 bolts are not matchy-matchy, they're not exactly the same actually. Now that I look at them, they might be. So I've got these 2 bolts, they are stamped the same, so they are the same. So they're 8.8, and I've got a 9mm drill bit. Yeah, so I've got these cobalt drill bit, I've got these 8.8s, I've got a 9mm cobalt drill bit. I don't have any cutting fluid, so I'm going to take my time. It's a battery drill, it's very slow, shouldn't be a problem getting through a bit of gas bottle. So my idea is if I just use this as the original, I'll open it so that on opening the door opens to here, this way. So the hinges will all be on this side. So what I will be doing is I will be using that old bit of steel to add an extra lip on the outside of this. So I'll be wrapping a bit of steel around it, on the outside, across the top, down this side, across this bit. I'll put a latch on this side. I'm going to make a hinge for this side. So making a hinge is a simple thing. So all I need is I'm going to weld a tab coming off here with a hole in it, one at the top, one at the bottom, top, bottom, and in corresponding places I'm going to weld tabs coming off of the bottle with these bolts welded onto it. In the interest of spending less time on this, of course, for this side of the door I'll be able to use a bit of this and just roll it gently, no problem. If I'm coming across the top of here, so I'm going to do the top first. I'm going to put a seam across this. I've got this, which you'll remember from last video. Obviously it's from the same gas bottle, so it's the perfect size. I may be able to get the top and the bottom out of this. Remember, I've only got a 0.8mm gap to fill. I could just do it on one side. I don't want to. I want the overlap all the way around the three sides that aren't hinged. So I'll get this cut out. I'm going to find the point where it starts to roll and cut it just before that. If I can then cut two out, which will cover that gap, which I think I'll be able to. That's about where I'm looking at. I will do so. This just saves us having to peen that round. I'll not have to just weld and bend and weld and bend. I won't have to form it round the thing and hopefully get it right. Saves us time. The entire thing right now saves us a little bit of time. I'm going to cut that out off camera with the grinder. I'll come back, take a picture maybe showing you the different steps, and you'll be able to follow along just fine. So there we have it. We've got these two cut off. So I've got rid of the rest of that thing. So these are cut off. They'll weld just nicely. I'm just going to sit on the top, just overlapping like so. So it's got that overlap to cover the gap that's left from the cutting disc that cut the door out. I'm going to weld these round. I will match it up on one end. I'll cut it perfectly straight to match this side. Weld it round, cut it off just above the other end, and then we'll get the side put on. So I'll come back to you when I get to that section.